on? So today we're going to be talking about an update on NAT. And so first thing we're going to talk about is the CEO just bought 50,000 shares of NAT. Second piece of news is that there's most likely going to be restrictions in place on tankers trading on Venezuela and Iran. And thirdly, NAT closes on its lowest week ever, edging lower to $4 a share. And finally, the spot tanker rates have just slightly increased this week. All right, so let's get right into it. All right, so here we can see, okay, so the CEO, Mr. Herborn Hansen, I don't know how to pronounce that, has today bought 50,000 shares of NAT at 408 per share, or over $200,000 worth of NAT. Again, this is good news for NAT, right? So as you can imagine, the CEO bought some shares this week, and the CEO's son bought some shares last week. He also bought 50,000 shares at, I believe it was $4.11. And I mean, I think that's pretty good news. So I think that's good news. One, because this shows, since the CEO knows what's going on in the tanker business. So if he buys 50,000 shares plus CEO's son buys another 50,000 shares, I mean, that's just a good sign that NAT is going to upward trend, and around $4 a share might be the bottom. Okay, some people might argue that they're just buying the shares in order to artificially inflate the price of NAT. But so if we go to the stock price, and I mean, NAT is close to its lows from over a month ago. So the last time it traded at like $4 was uh, back in March. So, and I mean, it reached $7. But I mean, this is a stock that was at one point, I believe, below $2, right? So, I mean, a long time ago. But what I mean is, like, this stock has already experienced something below $3, right? So there's no need to artificially inflate the price of NAT right now, especially since it's trading at $4. So, I don't think they're worried about portraying themselves as a penny stock necessarily, right? So, I mean, I think it's more of a sign that they think that this might be the bottom and it might just go up from here. Now, one other piece of good news for NAT potentially would be, again, the increasing restrictions involving tankers trading on Iran and Venezuela. So, first, what is this whole sanction? So, the Trump administration is preparing sanctions on as many as 50 oil and fuel tankers as an effort to cut off trade between Iran and Venezuela. So it's just saying be imposed through the Treasury Department. So they're just trying to deter Iran's support for Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. So what does this mean for NAT? So again, the U.S. is going to expand its list of tankers under sanctions from 80 to 130 involving the trade between Iran and Venezuela. So this means that if implemented, the restrictions have the potential of tightening the balance between supply and demand of tankers. So what does this mean? Well, so for one, if there's decreased supply of tankers, that means the existing tankers can charge more. So the spot price, which is basically the price that companies will have to pay to put oil on their tankers, will shoot through the roof, right? So as you can imagine, less supply of tankers. That means that NAT will have more sort of a competitive advantage and will be able to charge more for companies to put oil on their Suezmax vessels, right? So this is good news for NAT. And also, other piece of good news is that ships aren't necessarily being made, so more tankers aren't going to be coming out up until I believe next year. I don't think any tankers are being made, so that also decreases the supply of ships. So that's another piece of good news. Another piece of good news is that the spot rates just came out today. Every Friday they publish, as you can see, this is updated on the 3rd of July, so today. They publish the spot rates, which is basically how much oil companies have to pay per day on their tankers. So again, NAT owns the Suezmax fleet. I believe they have 23 ships. And so last week, someone had to pay $10,100 to put oil on their tankers, and now it's $10,400. So again, this is a good sign, this small uptick, although it's, only $300 more. And again, it's far below the year to date when the price was 50,200. I mean, this is showing a good upward trend. And if we compare it to the VLCC, which carries 2 million barrels of oil per day, so I mean it's below that number, or like it has decreased this week, but we'll have to see in the coming weeks what goes on. And also the other metals have showed a slight uptick. So Aframax and PMax have all shown also an increase this week in the spot rates. So again, that's good news. Um, as we can see here, now this is sort of the decline is slowing down, and hopefully it'll come up as the summer progresses into the fall, and hopefully the tanker rates, if they're anything like the past, these red and blue lines show the previous year's averages in 2019 and 2018. So hopefully, as the summer goes on, the tanker rates will also increase. So I think that's some good news for NAT. And what has NAT done this past week? Well, it has lost 5% of its market capitalization, right? So right now the market cap is like 600 million, and that's far below what it used to be trading at when it was like, even $7 a share, right? So again, I think it might dip below $4, and that's when I'm going to buy more NAT. Um, I think a lot of companies will have poor Q2 results as the pandemic hits hard many companies, obviously. But I think NAT might post good numbers, so I believe some investors may see this and may pile into NAT and other tanker companies, which might jack up the price. We'll have to see when that happens, but I do believe that they will have good Q2 numbers, and I believe around $4 or maybe a bit less, maybe 350 or something, will be the bottom, at least for the foreseeable future. And again, I think they'll have a good market at least for 1 or 2 years, right? And so, I mean, I might just buy more shares before their dividend date. Um, and again, at least I'll get some juicy dividends from that. All right. So right now, as you can see, their dividend yield is like 10.6%, which is just insane. And NAT does like paying out shareholders in dividends, right? So if anything, I'll just buy more shares for that, and hopefully it won't go too much lower. But yeah, what do you think? Do you think NAT will go lower? What do you think about the Q2 results, and plus the CEO buying more shares as well as CEO's son, and then increasing sanctions, which will decrease the supply of ships, which will jack up the spot rates, and also spot rates showing a good sign, sort of increasing rate here for their Suezmax vessels. All right, so thanks for watching, guys. I hope you have a great day and take care.